All right, Dad.
All right, son.
All is good. All is good. So today,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to talk about mistakes.
That should be short.
So look, we both got, and we've spoke about it in previous episodes, where we both have a strong dislike of people who present themselves as perfect, as all-knowing, as never making mistakes. And I know we both view mistakes as a very important part of the process of learning and growing. So I just want to start by saying to you, what is the biggest mistake you've ever made?
Wow. Put on the spot. I can't actually say that a mistake comes to my mind. And this would be one of the moments where our audience probably think, well, I'm sure these are rehearsed. And the proof is they're not, because given time to think about the answer to that question, I would probably come up with something. But my initial thoughts is nothing comes up in my mind, not because everything's gone perfectly. May I clarify that? But it's almost defining what is a mistake, I guess. And for me, when something goes wrong, was it a mistake to do it? Or was it the right thing in someone's mind, but it turned out wrong? And that probably needs to be heard again. But my definition of a mistake is when you knowingly do something that, if you like, is the wrong thing to do, or it won't work. It's just don't do it. And you've done it before and suffered the consequences, and then you've forgotten or whatever, and you've done it again. So in my opinion, that is then a mistake. The first time round, and I think sometimes human language creates us or makes us say, oh, that was a mistake. And I often say to people, was it? For example, I often stand on stage and I say to people, to provoke in a way, really, I say, guys, how many of you are like me? You've never, ever made a bad decision in your life. And you can almost see the audience kind of going, what, really? And then I kind of reinforce it and say, I, Phil Berg, have never, ever made a bad decision in my life. And I actually haven't. Now, I know some of our audience will be thinking, so he is arrogant. No, I'm not. I've never made a bad decision. But so many of the good decisions I made turned out wrong.
Yeah. I've heard you say this one before. Yeah. So now you say that, can you explain this in more detail then? What do you mean by that?
Okay. So everything we decide to do, all of us, is based on risk element, if you like. Okay. What if this goes wrong? What are the consequences? What could happen? And there will be times when we decide to do something. I don't know, anything, scuba diving. It's dangerous. Okay. It could be dangerous. Now, that's not to say for any scuba diving experts out there, I'm kind of ruining your business, but I'm just saying, you are under a lot of water per se. This might be a silly example, but there will be things that we do. There will be decisions we make that could have and would have an element of risk in. And that's okay. But you've made the decision to do it, accepting the consequences. It was the right decision, but it may have turned out wrong. It doesn't mean don't do it again, because you may have learnt from that episode and still wanted the outcome. So you've learnt, you've developed, and you've done it again. But again, that may turn out wrong. But that may turn out wrong purely and simply because you still may not have gained the skills yet to make it right. But I don't look back and think, oh, that was a mistake. I will look back and think that decision didn't turn out right. That decision didn't turn out right. But if I do exactly the same thing again, expecting a different result, for me, that's a mistake. And it's a famous quote, I think it was by Gandhi, and it said, I never, ever, ever lose. I love this one. I never, ever, ever lose. I either win or I learn.
Nice. Yeah, that is very good.
It's a good question by you. I mean, you say mistakes. You could say
failures.
Often say, you could say failures. You say, do you have any regrets?
Yeah.
And I think failures and regrets, failures and mistakes, I think failures, as I hear it, is different. Do you have any regrets? Well,
that's because everyone's got failures. You can't. I'm challenging you on this. Can you put a mindset around a failure?
Well,
because you can have a failed business doesn't mean you didn't learn a lesson from
exactly.
failing,
So,
but it still counts as a failed business. Doesn't mean the mindset isn't a positive one the way you think about it.
No, great point, and you're challenging me. But let's look at, okay, you had a business that supposedly failed.
So I had a spectacular failure.
Okay, what was that?
So that was that one when I was enticed to get involved in that multi-level marketing scheme when I invested the money and the time into that one.
Okay, now you're saying it was a spectacular failure, yes?
Yeah.
Even the word failure, I mean, you're making it spectacular, but you're saying it was a failure.
That's how I feel it was, how I was left. But
That's
yeah, it wasn't
okay.
spectacular.
But I think you're beating yourself up first. But let's talk about, you said we're talking about the subject of failure here, particularly failure, which is different from when we started on
mistakes.
Did we make mistakes? Have we made bad decisions? And it's turned into failure, which I think we should go back to mistakes and mistakes decisions. And regrets, if you like, again, decisions. But let's just stay on failure for a second. You are genuinely saying it was a failure, and you're now saying it was a spectacular failure.
It was a failure.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, no, it's a spectacular failure as far as you're concerned. My question to you is, I don't believe that was a failure. Because my question to you is, so you were enticed into financially investing into a multi-level marketing scheme, okay?
Yeah.
You got enticed into it. You were young. I was always very annoyed at the time because I didn't realize that the person I trusted at the time had been speaking to you behind my back, and you'd parted with money, in my opinion, you didn't really have, although it was probably pocket money from Mum and I.
Maybe if you gave me some more pocket money, it would have been all right.
I think if we'd have given you more pocket money, you'd have invested more. So we knew that we should hold back on this.
That's why you didn't give me pocket money, because you know I'd invest it, not wisely.
Probably. But okay, so talking about investment without diversifying, okay? You've invested in your time. Was that the right decision at the time?
Yes.
So was it a failure?
Well, this is a good thing for us both to explore of what counts as failure, mistake, regret, decision.
Exactly. So let's go back to this multi-level marketing, okay? Yeah. Spectacular failure. My question to you is, what was your purpose for doing it? What did you hope it would achieve for you? Why did you begin? Yeah. And what was your intended and your vision pictured results?
Yeah, I think it was that why that we spoke about in earlier episodes. The why was it would allow me to work from wherever I wanted, allow me to earn that income and work from a laptop. I think that was the vision.
So you got involved in that vision with a purpose of working where you want, how you want from a laptop.
Yeah.
Yeah? What are you doing at the moment in your life?
Okay, you got me.
Well, answer it.
Yeah, working from where I want, when I want, from a laptop.
So did you fail on your journey, or did that route not succeed?
Very interesting. That's very interesting.
Okay, but you haven't admitted it. Just admit it.
I can admit it. I'll hold my hands up and say you're right.
Okay, so you didn't fail.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay,
because failure, in my opinion, is failure to achieve the goal you wanted. You see, if that particular direction you took, didn't work, and you then made the decision that the reason you took it was to be able to work from where you want, blah, 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 and this would be one of the ways, not the way, but one of the ways, and you decided, you know what, actually, the goal I was going for isn't actually what I wanted, because a lot of people do that wrong. They picture they want something and work so hard they didn't even want it. So you actually, it didn't, if anything, it didn't change your view of your destination. It didn't change your opinion of where you wanted to go. Okay. If anything, it made you aware of a road not to take in the future.
Well, I talk about that with you a lot, don't I? When I say I figured out what I don't want to do. I have so many of these conversations with friends of figure out what you don't want to do, and that will help you focus on what you do.
Yeah. And they say, there's a saying, not mine, there's a saying that a lesson taught is better than a lesson bought. Okay?
Yeah,
you
of course.
bought a lesson. It was a costly experience.
Yeah.
Okay? Which is why we stopped giving you pocket money, because you wasted it.
Where's all this pocket money been going? Because I haven't seen it.
And you never will. So
where's this access fund?
No, you're old enough now. You don't have it.
I should though.
No, but you said it's to go to our nursing home. So we're gonna pick our own nursing home. Thanks. So ultimately, in my opinion, not because you're my son, I don't look at that scenario and say you failed. At the time, was it the right decision that turned out wrong? Yes or no?
Yes.
So Was that a mistake? Yes or no?
No, now, because you're training me on this right now to think of it that way. I would still say it was a mistake, because if I could go back, I wouldn't do it. And that's my definition. I'm not saying I'm
Did
right.
you do it again?
No, like I've had a lot of multi-level marketing people come to me since, and this is part of my where you are. I'm not leading towards it, because I do believe all those things. I do believe it's a failure. That's a personal opinion. Everything you're saying now is correcting me. I agree. I learned a lesson, but the thing that I always take from it is, at least I failed with not a lot of money, whereas further down the line, when other multi-level marketing people have come to me, I could have invested a lot more and done a lot more damage. And that's been my positive I've taken from it, which is I learned the lesson of with only a little bit of money lost. But what you're saying today is helping me go, actually, yeah, you're right. That helped me on the journey to where I am.
So did you lose money? Because I don't think we should go on for this forever, otherwise it will be repeated.
Yeah.
But did you lose money? Or could you look at this? There was an investment that didn't work that created learning, that gave you a different direction and awareness what not to do, what to do. And believe me, for anyone listening, if you're involved in multi-level marketing, I'm not going to knock it. I do have my opinions.
There's plenty out there that I'm sure are good, but...
And at the right time. So in fairness, this isn't about multi-level particularly.
Yeah.
I have my opinions of it. But you decided it wasn't your chosen route in the future. So how much has that saved you? Because you didn't go on that journey again. If you'd have done it a second time and said, oh, I thought this one was the one that suited me, whether it was the multi-level scheme or whether it was the multi-level product or whether it was your way of doing it, that would have been a mistake.
Yeah. And actually, to be fair, when I do a lot of things, I try and think worst case. And even though I did invest the money and it didn't work, because it was a protein-based one, I did end up having protein for the next 3 years sorted, even though I didn't shift it. So it meant I had to have it for the next 3 years.
Well, exactly.
I thought, all right, I'll just go through all this product that I haven't sold.
Exactly. So
yeah, that's a good point.
But it's a great question you ask, because there's mistakes, there's regrets. I always remember parting company with someone that worked for me in my flooring business. If I had my time again, and that's how I turn the word regret.
That's a really good way of putting it.
I could turn around and say, oh, do you know what? I genuinely regret parting company with him. And I must tell you, this was one of the nicest guys I've met. Really, really nice guy. But it was actually...
I think I know which one.
Yeah, it was actually I'm not going to use the name, but
of course.
It was actually my inexperience when I look back at it as an owner, because as I was developing my business, I was always the best salesperson in my own business. So I would go out and get the new clients, and also I had sales teams getting their new clients. What I really would do next time, and I nearly fell into what I regret, I nearly fell into that. But sometimes habits of language makes you use negative language. So it would have been very easy, and I nearly slipped into it just now to say, what I regret. But I say, if I had my time again, this is what I would do.
I like that wording, yeah.
Because at the time, it was the right decision. Really, he was such a nice guy that I always felt that if I had my time again, I would get the clients myself, pass them over to him, keep in touch with them. So message here for sales, keep in touch with them so they feel that you've not neglected them. But I would have had him, if you like, supporting their requirements and me just keeping in touch with them occasionally. But again, perhaps something we talked about in earlier series, because of imposter syndrome or fear, I always had this worry that if someone was looking after some of my best clients and they left my company, as we know in sales, people buy people and relationships, that actually they could take my clients, even unintentionally, my clients would want to go with them.
Yeah.
And that could be a major concern to our business. Most people, when they have a major client leave, it's not the icing on the cake, it's the cake. So to overcome the fear of what, when I look back at it, was never going to happen, he didn't want his own business. He never wanted to go on his own. He would have been fantastic just looking after our existing clients and me just keep going out and then getting new ones and keeping in touch. But because of that fear, it materialized that I was kind of critical of him for not getting out and getting new business, which was my forte. So if I had my time again, I would get the business, pass it over to him. He could look after it. But I actually parted company with him because he wasn't getting enough business. And I wouldn't do that again. Was it a mistake? Absolutely not. Because number one, I learnt.
Yeah.
Number two, what am I doing now? Sharing this information for others that are listening to us so that hopefully they learn from it. So part of the journey.
No, that's a very, very good mindset shift. I like that. And, I like a lot of the wording and things you use and teaching me to look at stuff in that situation. It made me think, and especially that Gandhi quote, there's a Biggie quote or Biggie lyric from one of his songs, which is, I never lose, I never choose to. And I love that. It's like, I never choose, I make the decision, I didn't lose. And I love that, like saying of I never choose to.
Yeah.
Because like you said, then it's that everyone suffers. I know we're still debating the term, the failure, mishaps, things go wrong. But it's that mindset of how quickly can you change that into it. Right, on to the next thing, lesson learned.
That's so true. I mean, as you were saying that, something else came into my mind. And it's the mentality of the brain. Let's just forget everything we've just said. Has Phil Berg made mistakes? I'm sure I have. Okay. Are there things that I could regret? I'm sure there are. Have I had failures? I'm sure there are. But maybe my mentality is, who cares?
Yeah, because that made you who you are now.
Well, what if I have? So what? By actually, if you like, not consciously, but by actually not even thinking about it, why am I wasting my time? If I've learned from them at the time, you move on.
Well, it's your Bergism, which we spoke about in an earlier episode, that it is what it was.
It is what, you don't say it is what it is what it was.
Yeah.
So I'm so forward thinking that as long as I learn from it, for those of us, well, we all do, if you're in sales, you are going to be obviously doing client proposals. You are going to lose certain orders. Now, in fairness, some orders you'd never have in the first place. The trick is not to just lose it, but when you lose it, to give yourself a little bit of time to not say, oh, what did I do wrong? Because mentally, you're asking yourself to come up with all the things you did wrong. If you say to yourself, what could I have done better? What could I have done differently? Now, in some cases, you'll say, well, with that client, really, I asked all the right questions. I did all the right things. They've mucked me about. I was being abused. But even if you were being abused, as in they wanted to use somebody else and they just abused you for your knowledge, you can learn from that. You can even think, well, why do I think I was abused? Well, because when I think about it, they asked a lot of searching questions that I gave too detailed an answer. Okay, so what do you learn from that? Well, next time I'm going to shorten it and ask them, why do they ask that question, et cetera, et cetera. There's something to gain from every defeat.
Yeah, and I like that word,
and listen, you only lose the match at the end.
Very good.
I
like that word.
Somewhere.
That note down. Yeah, Berg's at number 200 and how many are you at now?
87, that will be.
That'll be 287.
You only lose the match at the end. Oh, hold on, I'm going to...
There you go, writing down a Bergism.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've just heard a new Bergism.
You only lose the match at the end.
Only lose the match. I'm writing it on a Post-it note.
So I'm going to challenge you a bit, if that's all right. And I hope you don't mind me asking this. So... Because you're right, it's the mindset, and I've always admired you for the mindset, and it's that as I grow, I only get more respect for you when I realize how difficult all of this stuff, all this running a business is. Not you made it look easy, but you dealt with it. You came home, you were, when I say you're relaxed, you'd fall asleep, you'd watch TV, whatever, like whatever you do.
I've seen the beginning of most programs.
Yeah, exactly. And the end. I don't really know how you still manage to enjoy it, missing the middle. But you've always come home and you've never, when things have happened, I'd have never known when I was growing up.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'd have never known there was this toughness. It was, as I've grown up, you guys have told me things that happened, or sometimes towards the end, but I'd have never really known. And there's one which has always stuck in my mind, especially because when I say I wouldn't have known, it was because it was as I was born, where you've said about your business partner who basically stole the business, like a real, and This is what I mean by, we've touched on losing clients, losing sales, but you had a business, and you can obviously take us through this a bit more in a second, but for me, just setting the scene of what I know is that you had a business that you grew with a guy who was at your wedding. He wasn't the best man, was he? But he was at the wedding. He was a close friend, and he then ran off with all the money from the business, leaving you in debt.
Correct.
As I was born. So you had a new baby, everything been going well, and he did that to you. Would you be okay to tell our listeners just a short bit about what actually happened? and using all the teachings you've just told me about wasn't a mistake, wasn't a failure. One, what you learned from that. Two, how you currently feel about that after all these years, if you're okay to talk about that. Because we've never really spoken about this, and it's always been something I've been quite interested in.
Well, there's two scenarios, but you can't, when I think about this, you can't feel good about something terrible until afterwards. Now that sounds obvious because you can't feel good about it before because you may not know it's happening, you know? But actually, there are two scenarios that are horrendous, have been in my life and are currently in my life. One is, I was working part-time in a carpet and flooring shop, which actually evolved into my 32-year career at the time. So I was working part-time for a guy and his father. I ended up becoming their managing director. He literally turned into the devil. I was always looking at this stage to get my own business, and I have a theory on that, which I won't go into now, about people that want their own business. I just honestly think that, do you want your own business, or is it that you just don't want to work with who you're working with at the moment? So I always wanted my own business in my mind, and I was working for this father and son carpet and flooring company that had been established since 1945. The son had taken over the business. I was, treated as part of the family, very much so. And at one stage, to stop me getting my own business, they offered me to become the managing director. We had 3 retail outlets, and this seemed a very, very good career move. I also, you were
young, you're in your 20s.
Yeah, I was early 20s. And you also look at the boss at the time and think, he's got a nice, the father had a nice big house, the son had a nice big house. And it wasn't about big. It was about the fact that, this can give you a living. I actually looked at it and think, there's 2 families here, father and son, that have got nice living, nice cars, nice big house. So actually, I do want a nice house at some stage. I wasn't into gold setting or mine setting at that stage, but I do want a nice house. I do want a nice car. So I just thought, they're proof that you can achieve this in this industry. And I've always had the attitude, and it gets heard wrong occasionally, and I always had the attitude, they're not better than me.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
That could be translated as I'm better than them.
It's more like I could do that. I back myself.
If you can do it, I can do it. I'm not, comparing myself to the
I know what you mean.
1% in the world. This, again, ordinary people. So
it's achievable.
Yeah. So I basically was offered the papers to sign to become the managing director of the company and have shares. And for those that would know and understand terminology in business, I didn't actually sign to become the managing director, which I thought I did. I literally signed what they call an unlimited guarantee against the business, which basically I was stitched up that if the business goes bankrupt, which funny enough, it did within a year of me signing, I was solely liable. Okay.
And they weren't liable.
No. Well, the father wasn't really involved in the business at the time. The son had taken it over, and the son moved to America.
So the son's the one that stitched you up by getting you to sign.
Oh, the son moved to America. It's called joint and several, which basically means you're both responsible. So which it was, I'm going back, oh my goodness, in the you were born 1990. So this was the 1990s. So if you have a bank loan of £100,000 with 2 partners, you're both guaranteeing the £100,000. So if one goes, they've got the other one.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. So he left the country and they came to me for £100,000. Okay. At the time, in many ways, a debt of £500 million is easier to deal with than a debt of £100,000. Because for £100,000, you can somehow work that out. 500 million is like, have the house.
Yeah.
Just have it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So in some ways, the debt it was just over £100,000 in 1990 was so huge that, I say so huge, unfortunately, it was also near enough that we just had you. We had a nice house for our young age because we'd worked very hard. And you have a fear of loss because, again, I didn't have the mentality that I did now. So it's everything I worked for, we're going to lose. And now it'd be like, so what? I'll go again. That's the old, well, what's the worst? Okay. If I did it once, I'll do it again with better experience, probably get there quicker. I always say if I went bankrupt tomorrow I'll be a multimillionaire much quicker.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, cut your losses, start again.
Well, it's very difficult going for £100,000 if you're putting at risk the £40,000 that you need to earn. So sometimes the most successful are the people that had nothing at some stage.
Hungriest.
So if you're kind of safe is the wrong word, but earning enough, it's
comfortable.
It's a question of how much of a gambler are you and for what purpose. So, this guy tucked us up massively. We were being chased by the banks, the mortgage company.
He was just going AWOL when you were trying to get in contact with him.
He'd gone. You couldn't get any contact.
You couldn't call him.
No, he'd gone, completely gone. And on top of that, it was a period where in life, the country was going through a challenge. It was a recession and things were in what they call negative equity. Negative equity means we were also living in a house that the mortgage was bigger than the value of the house. So let's say things weren't great. But it goes back to something I said in an earlier series where certainty means you can focus. So things weren't great. I knew where we were. Get on with it. And at the time, and I have no problem saying this, would I have wished every bad thing on him? Absolutely.
Just at the time, not now?
No, at this moment, I struggle, without sounding angelic, to wish people harm.
Yeah.
It's not comfortable. I wish him no success.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's it. I wish him no success at all. Wishing him harm, karma. What goes around comes
around.
around.
Enough. And you're a much nicer person than me then.
Well, but that's...
I know what you mean. You're not trying to be angelic, but every part of my body, even just listening to this story, because I know how much of a genuine good person you are, the fact that he did that.
But there are bad people in life.
I know, but this is why I'm asking you this, and it's challenging myself as well and challenging you I just can't imagine someone doing that to me and me being as graceful. I know that there was anger, I know there's time, but I just, even now, it hasn't even happened to me. You can hear in my voice, it makes my blood boil that someone would do that to you.
Let me tell you, I got dressed in the morning. There was a very short period that Mum didn't even know. I would get up in the morning, put my suit on, go out, come home about 6 o'clock and tell her I'd had a good day. Didn't even know where I'd gone.
Where did you go?
I don't know.
Oh, there was no work. Was the company shut down?
No, it had gone. Company shut down, liquidated. I don't know. Don't know where I went.
Probably to the cafe for a bacon sandwich.
And more.
Yeah,
okay?
A few bacon
and
sandwiches.
Then what was worse, I'd come back, you were less than a year old, and you were a saving grace, but I'd walk into your room, and I'd look at you, and it didn't matter that you were a very, very ugly baby with a very, very pointed head.
I was an ugly baby, wasn't I?
And I'd look at you, and it just, you were my motivation. Okay?
Very nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
So now you're saying to me, how do I feel? At the end of the day, what happened because of it? Okay? And I have had 2 business partnerships since, because partnerships are interesting in business.
Yeah. We say 2. You've had quite a few different inversions. They're your 2 big ones.
Yes.
You had enough other versions of partnerships.
Yes. But each of them were with different consideration. When I've signed something, it got checked instead of on trust. There were different questions which I learned to ask. There were situations which I gained from that experience. I've had money challenges. Ultimately, when you think about the question you asked, which is, in that terrible, terrible circumstance, how do I feel? How did I react to it? Number one, it's bad news. It's certain it's bad news. I know what I've got to do. I've got a family to provide for. Get on with it. What did it result in? Starting my own business.
Yeah.
Learning about business. Doing well. Developing, etc., etc. Okay? I wouldn't be, none of us are ever the person we are without being the person we've been.
That's a good one.
None of us. Bergism number 288. Okay? So none of us have ever become that. So that situation, I'm grateful to him.
Mm.
Now that's different to, oh, yeah, what a lovely guy.
Yeah.
You know, what a horrible guy. But I have the choice of reaction. And without sounding angelic, because some people listening to these would kind of go, oh, yeah, that's easy. No, I repeat something we've said before. It's not easy, but it is simple and it is choice.
Yeah.
And if I want to stay angry, how does that make a difference to me? Nothing. It's only negative. So without sounding, again, so stupid, it's not a focus. I wish him absolutely no luck.
Yeah.
None. And that's as far as I can go. And as you know, and we talked about this, I have a situation with Grandpa, which is my dad. Okay. My dad stupidly over his years has disowned my second sister down. In the last year and a half, he disowned my next sister, and this year disowned me. Okay.
And pretty much the rest of us.
Yeah, by choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have sent Happy New Year's, Happy Birthdays, blah, 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 and got nothing pretty much but abuse back. Okay. Am I angry? As I sit here now, and this has been in the last year, I'm very sad for him that he's in his mid-70s. He has the most amazing grandchildren. Okay. You, Tash, the others, right? He's got the opportunity to enjoy our happiness in our life.
Yeah.
And he's got the opportunity, as he should have, for him to have happiness in his life.
Yeah.
But then I've changed that emotion to whether I like it or not, he is happy having made the decision. Now, I'm sure in some ways he wouldn't choose it, that would be the way his life would go. But he's made his decision that he's happier cutting himself off than being around us all. So whilst that's sad, again, for me, I'm happy if he's happy. Okay. It's sad for us, which is a shame. I am grateful to him that I'm nothing like him. But in seeing that, we all make a choice. We shouldn't model ourselves on anybody. But there's parts, you may watch someone on telly.
I think you should, though. I disagree. I think you should model yourself on
a person or
people. No, 3.
I agreed.
There's an actual, and this is a creative thing I teach people, of pick 2 or 3 people or pages or businesses where you like the content they put out, and try and be like them. Try and copy their content, even if it's not the same business as yours. Mm-hmm. Try and copy their style, copy that, because by creating a combination of the 3, and by failing to create, humans are physically incapable of creating direct carbon copies of anything.
Okay.
You will always fail to be an exact copy of someone.
That's good.
So by failing to be a copy of them, and then by throwing another 2 people who you're going to slightly fail, but you're still going to try and be like them, that's how you create yourself.
So I'm not going to challenge that, because I love that. No, I'm not going to. But I think where you slipped into, which is good, was where I heard you talk about that was action, business, activity, whereas I was tending to talk about personality.
But if you relate that to personality, if I say, right, I want to be like you, but I don't want to be falling asleep every night. I want to be going surfing. So I want to be like that professional surfer. And I want to be, it's still, I don't think it's a bad thing to want to be like a combination of people and a combination of traits.
So but what you're doing then, you're picking as you develop, you're picking, I like that part of that person. I don't like that part.
Yeah.
So why would I be grateful to my dad? And I hope one day, which probably won't happen.
Yeah, who knows?
But maybe we could send him this part.
We'll see.
My dad was tremendously hardworking.
Yeah.
Okay?
For all of us, he instilled that.
Yeah. Now, again, part of us has to be taking credit for what we choose to do. Okay. But my dad showed me that hard work, I didn't have brains, and I've always said to you.
Didn't?
No.
When you say didn't, what you do now?
And I also say to you that I wasn't clever.
Yeah.
I've told you this, but I didn't tell you in school. I didn't go to school much.
No, I know that.
Okay. Yeah, but you didn't know that when you didn't go to school.
No, when I didn't go to school and I was getting told off for not going to school, I never knew that I was just copying you.
Well, you weren't copying me because you didn't know.
Maybe I did subconsciously.
No, you didn't have a subconscious.
Yeah, a subconscious or a conscious.
In fact, you didn't have a conscience.
Didn't have much going on.
No. So for me, my dad was always hardworking. and I could see that the success that he would have. And again, ordinary guy. And when I say success, when you're young, you think someone that's got something is successful.
Yeah.
You know, it may not
they can
be.
drive. So you think, oh, wow, they can drive.
Absolutely. Wow. You know, he's got, and I won't mention a car in case someone thinks that's their ultimate dream. But wow, he's got that car. It may be a very, very ordinary car. But to you as a kid, it's like, oh, wow. So my dad was always a hard worker. And so for me, hard working wasn't an unnatural trait. It was just what people do, because sometimes you're surrounded with a few people and you judge that that's what people do. Reality is it may be just what's that circle of people around you do. So it's like, you know, you generalize. So for me, hardworking, you know, my dad's always, if you like, I've taken that from him. Drive, strength, because again, I think my dad's strong.
Yeah, he was.
You know,
well, he is.
I think drive. So I've taken those parts, and it's like, he's going to go forward. He's going to get on with it. Okay. I'm not going to mention the parts of my dad that I choose that I don't like, or the opposite. But all I would say to you is, you know, I feel that through observing my dad, that I am definitely a better version of, in my opinion. So I've got to be grateful to him. Now, he didn't say, here's my gift, son.
Yeah.
But that's how I look at it. And you know, who knows what the future holds with us?
Yeah.
But I can't make his decision. That's his decision.
Yeah, and
I've got to step back for it and go, it's a shame. And you know, words, I think what people get from you and I is words. It's a shame. Could I be torn up about it?
But you say from you and I get it from you, and I'm getting better at it. But that's when you said that to me the other day, and with all the situation with Grandpa, it makes me very sad, and I just ignore it. I just go, it's a very sad thing, push it to the back of my, like, that's all the thought I'm going to give it.
Great.
I'm not going to think anymore. But when you said that the other day, because only a couple of days ago you said this to me, when you said, like, I'm happy for him that he's chosen his happiness, I was like, what an amazing way of framing that. And I know, because I know the way you are, it's not some sort of angelic, because I'm holier than thou.
No,
I know
think
the way
it's
you
terrible.
are is for your own good. You're not going, I've chosen to give him that because I want to be angelic. It's for your own good. If you don't frame your mind like that, your only other option is to be annoyed and sad and angry, which
I can't
isn't
waste that emotion. I can't.
But that's a very
change.
admirable trait, Dad, and it's a very good thing that I hope more people listening, because look, this, unfortunately, family, friends, fallout happens to everyone.
Well, there's a great Bergism. You never fall out with people you don't know.
Yeah, true. Yeah. And I just think it's just such an admirable trait to be able to get your mind in that state.
I love the word choice. Now, do I choose this situation? No. Have I reached out? Yes.
Plenty of times.
And I think the thing that everyone should be thinking about is, have you done what you can do? You know, I will continue to send out happy birthday, happy new year, whatever, and wish you happy and everything else. Will I continue? Of course I will, because that's something I can control. Okay. I would get upset if I didn't hear anything back. Now I can't be upset. It is sad. And I could be upset. There's nothing I can do.
What's the book you love? Chimp Paradox.
The Chimp Paradox.
That's the thing that gets me a bit more because you're so logical, and I've just seen these situations so many times of your logic. And as much as I know I've taken from you, and I'm very logical, I do feel like in certain situations, especially if to the top of my mind, I can't think of any situations like some of those ones you've been in with, like the family side of things. Because look, we're very lucky that our immediate family is very close. But if ever there is one, and I'm thinking of a couple of situations we've been in with wider family members where I've struggled. Eventually I've been okay, but it's taken a few weeks of, like, every day it's like plays on my mind. I'm like, I just want to go and give them a smack.
Look, you know, we have an immediate family that was treating me disgustingly.
Yeah. That's something that's part of the thing I just want
on script, written. And if I look back at it now, and the relationship has come back to being able to be in the same room now, but, I could look at some of the things written and think, why am I bothering? I could look at some of the things written and thinking, that's disgusting. I actually look at it and think, I can't help it.
That's a chimp
He was
paradox.
an idiot.
Yeah.
But, well, emotion affects most decisions. You think of most things you do, emotion makes you want to do something. Okay. Logic might tell you that's crazy.
It's hard to control that emotion and that's what I'm kind of really wanting to press you on today. And I take inspiration from you, and I hope the listeners do, I've always been so impressed at your logic over your emotion. So if we use something that happened recently.
If I just say one thing that's come to my mind here, logic has helped me from being hurt more.
Interesting. So it's actually, again, it's for a good reason.
Yeah.
But we all. Is that trigger finger response? If I logically think,
do you know what, this person's an idiot. They're hurling abuse at me, completely random. I was like, they're an idiot. I mean, what can I do? They're an idiot. Whereas if I was emotional with it, it would hurt. So it hurts, but the logic says they're an idiot. So it's my way of dealing with it.
Very good. So there's a book by John Maxwell, I don't know if you've heard of it, called Failing Forwards.
No.
Have you heard of that?
No, I know John Maxwell. John C. Maxwell.
John C. Maxwell.
Yep.
Sorry, John Maxwell, if you're listening, I forgot the C.
Yeah, John C. Maxwell, yeah.
And it's all about failing forwards. And he talks about how we were never taught to deal with failure in school. And that actually, which you really touched upon then, by embracing failure and by actively going, I'm going to try this, and I know there's chances that I might fail in the process and the journey. But what I learn among that failure, and when that happens, is going to only propel me forwards, which is kind of what you were saying. And one of his main arguments in it is that why isn't it taught in school of you're going to fail? Instead of being taught in school, here's how to be perfect, here's how to be straight A student, why is it not taught, here's how to embrace your failure and use that? Have you got any thoughts on that concept, on why in school we're not taught failure more, why it is a case of we've got to experience failure to learn from it?
Well, I can't say this as a fact because I'm not involved in organising the school curriculum.
Yeah, your opinion.
But my opinion is that there's a lot of things that could be taught in school that aren't. How to network effectively. When we leave school, we're then going out into the real world. And school could be something like, when you're learning to be a driver, you're learning to pass your driving test. But then you're learning to pass your driving test. When you pass your driving test, you then learn to drive.
Yeah.
So I think because I don't know, I'm guessing that the school curricula or curriculum, or however it's pronounced, is decided from above somewhere. And there's lots of things in life are done this way because it's always been done this way.
Yeah.
No one's ever questioned it. So I suppose at some stage, who would ever turn around and say, hang on a minute, let's look at life skills. Let's look at life skills and let's change a lot of what is taught in school. Now, whether that conversation has and is happening, who knows? But can you see that's a huge shift? But how many of us have left school with life skills? And I'm not saying what is taught in school isn't valuable.
Yeah, that's a whole nother podcast episode where we get an expert involved.
But it's a very good question. And when I think about this in coaching and mentoring, one size doesn't fit all. And you've just made me think, and I'll put it right out there to the listeners and the audience if someone wants to go for it. But wouldn't it great if, there were opportunities? So, for example, you as a person, okay, James Berg, you've created Pickaroons, an unbelievable company. You've got vision. You are a creative, okay? Wouldn't it be great if possible, when people get to a certain kind of age and already is showing a passion in a certain, if you like, behavioral style, characteristic, even something very visual, that then they could go into this part of the school that absolutely focuses and harnesses onto where they are, where they're going.
Yeah.
So you could actually have left school understanding that being creative is great, having great ideas that you do is great. However, you just need to understand a little bit of the basics of finances, and because you rightly so wouldn't kind of be interested in that.
Yeah.
What I love about you is you actually aren't bothered about the money you earn, but you do understand you need to earn X amount of money for the lifestyle you want, which is amazing. So yours would be very much about, okay, son, so let's look at the lifestyle you want. And instead of someone ridiculing it, it's almost like, okay, so let's talk about this. You want to be, let's say it was surfing, whatever, every day, and you want to be, okay, so what type of house do you want to live in? Okay, well, I don't really know. Okay, but we need to talk about that. So you've got to live in something. So would you be happy in a caravan? And I'm not, again, I'm not looking at it, because for you it'd be like, I actually would. Brilliant. So let's look at, so what you need to, the skills we need to help you with is understanding your minimum expenses, as in the minimum amount that you need to earn. Okay. Could you then, if you like, if you wanted to surf and whatever, scuba dive, whatever, and that was 2 to 3 days a week, that's fine. But the one thing that's not going to change in life is the amount of days or hours in a week.
Yeah.
So if your passion for life was 3 days a week and that left you a remaining 4, could you earn the money of your minimum expenses in the remaining 4? Now, it wouldn't be that you'd have to come up with the exact figure, but if you'd left school understanding that concept, then it's like, okay, well, this is what you'd come up with the grounding. So someone else may need a different direction, but again, who am I to change the ways people are taught?
But and that's all a very good point. But I'm going to now throw the failure part into that.
Yeah.
Of this focus on failure of, I don't know where this came from. I think maybe because of the natural failures I had, and I'm viewing a failure as in I snapped my knee, the cancer stuff in my arm, like all that stuff, because those failures or those.
I don't think they're failures. They're not failures. They're mishaps.
Distractions.
Call them distractions in life.
So when those distractions happened, as we've discussed before,
setbacks.
That's the word. That never took me off of the end goal. It meant, I thought I was going to do it when I was 20, but maybe it'll be when I'm 40.
If anything, it probably pushed you more towards it.
It did, because it made me more clear of, I definitely want this. But this is my thing of, I was so clear on what I was working towards, and I had so much passion for that every time something went wrong and there was a failure, it's not, I don't like the cheesy, I didn't give up. It's not, I didn't give up, even though I didn't give up.
No.
But it's not, I was sat there going, I'm not giving up. It was more like, right, that didn't work. I'm not good at that. So that's back burner, next thing that's going to get me to that place I need to be. And I think if that was taught more in schools, and maybe this is looping all the way around to our very first episode we did of season 1 with Chats with Dad, when I asked you, why don't more people set big, hairy, audacious goals? Why don't people say, I want to have this perfect life? I believe it's because once we start facing failures, once we start having those failures or those, what did you call them? Mishaps, setbacks. Once setbacks start happening, I feel like the majority of people, when setbacks start happening on their goals, on their dreams, I'm not saying they give up, but they lessen the dream, or they start to believe that maybe it's not possible.
Maybe it's none.
Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself.
I'm just unlucky.
Maybe I'm getting ahead of. I mean, I had it. And that's what I mean. I don't want to present this as this unnerving. I had the unnerving photo where I wanted to be. There were so many times when I worked in a job and they kind of, the powers that be kept saying like, stop getting ahead of yourself. Like, just do the job you're supposed to be doing. Stop trying to do that. And I started going, do you know what? I'm quite young. Like, who am I to think?
Did you sometimes believe them?
Loads of the times I believed them.
But what happened? You had people, not saying me.
Then I had other people. I had Ruth.
People around you that were saying, no, hang on. We need people in life.
You need people around you. Do you know that Denzel Washington, what is it he says? It's like, if you hang around the barber shop long enough, eventually you'll get a haircut. And it's like, if you start spending time with specific types of people, eventually you'll do that. So I was very, very lucky. I had you, I had Ruth, I've got some great friends, people that kind of went, when I'd go, oh yeah, do you know what? I got told this, or I tried that and it didn't work. And the powers that be said, stop doing this. And maybe I should just stop trying to work from a laptop. Maybe it isn't possible. But then it was people like you or Ruth that were kind of like, well, hold on, like, yeah, that didn't work, but why don't you try this? Why don't you go for that?
But you had, okay, I'm not the type of dad that just because you're my son.
No, you're definitely not. You're too, unfortunately, you're too logical for that.
But just because you're my son, everything's wonderful, right? I've already said you're an ugly baby, and it's true.
You're too logical for that.
You take someone like Ruth, who has, I mean, as your father, we're eternally grateful for her keeping an eye on you.
Yeah.
Okay?
Guiding me. She's guided me so much.
But here's the point with a Ruth. She would not have wasted her time guiding someone that she didn't see potential in or like.
Yeah.
She would not have wasted her time. Okay. So there was always something about you. And you mentioned before, it depends on who you surround yourself with. Do you know, if you're surrounding yourself with 10 idiots, you will believe you're an idiot. Okay.
Isn't that saying as well? It's like if you surround yourself with 8 idiots, you'll be the 9th idiot. If you surround yourself with 8 millionaires, you'll be the 9th millionaire.
Okay, I like that.
It's like a saying with something like that.
We're the sum of people we surround ourselves with. So Ruth has been amazing. She's an amazing person, but she was attracted to you. Okay. And there was always something about you. And you're always searching. So, you attract how you act.
If I told you that one, I seem to be saying it to so many people at the moment. What did you say? You attract?
We attract how we act.
So it's a really cheesy saying, but I love it, which is your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yes.
And that's a reason why I say I'm a pirate.
Yes.
Because exactly what you touched on before, if I start going, I'm a pirate, a lot of people, and the exact same type of person has said to me, I really recommend you stop saying that. And everyone
I actually would encourage you to just briefly now, just explain what you mean by you're a pirate, because people are hearing this, but without knowing you, okay, there's an assumption that they know what that means. I think if you could just summarize what you mean by I'm a pirate in the next minute or so, go for it.
I'll try and in the quickest way possible, because I think this could be a whole nother episode. So in the quickest way possible, when I say pirate, what the pirates did was they looked at the established way of doing things and they said, I think there's a better way. So if you were in the Navy, if you lost an arm, they'd throw you out on the street, can't use you anymore. So the pirates, who many of them were in the Navy, would say, well, hold on, like, if you lose an arm, we'll give you a bit of gold. So at least when you go back to your family, you've got some money. Now, they weren't doing that because they went, that's the right thing to do. They realized that's how they were going to attract the best crew members, by having the best working conditions. And in the Navy, you had awful working conditions. And the pirates were always in a search of profit. But they knew that to gain that profit, they had to have amazing working conditions, the best crew, and everything they did was about saying, if you can help me make money, get involved. And then they made situations which would attract people to want to do that. And as a result, people were leaving the Navy to become pirates. And there's things like female CEOs, they had same-sex marriages, they had fair pay, they could vote the captain out. All these things that were awful, awful conditions in the Navy, the pirates created more positive versions of them so that they could turn their own profit. They weren't kind, they weren't woke, they weren't social activists.
So relate your pirate philosophy, which it is, because a lot of people hear pirate and think, oh, that's a bit kind of bandit, crook. But if you turned your pirate philosophy into what Picaroons is ultimately about, for me, I've always had the impression that it was the establishment that were crooks and the pirates became the pirates because actually they weren't going to conform. And it's exactly what you and Picaroons are about. Is there a better way to do it? And ultimately, you want something normal, go to someone normal. You want something special, come to us because we're pirates. We're different.
So, Dad, I mean, thank you. I've learned a lot. I've challenged my own thoughts in this episode, talking about setbacks. I know I started off by saying mistakes, and it's something I've always tried to understand is it a mistake? Is it a failure? And I think, yeah, you've really taught me a lot about that mindset. And thank you for sharing the stuff with your business partner and with Grandpa, because I know they're not always easy to do. But I just want to finish on one of your Bergisms that I really like, and I'd like you just to share with our listeners what you mean by it. And that's, you haven't got the problem until you have the problem. What do you mean by that?
Okay. just something you said a minute ago, I would encourage everybody to focus on positive language. This isn't going to be a diversification of your question.
That's good.
But just focus on positive language. You know, you think of the words mistakes, regrets, anything like that.
Yeah.
When you think about that, and some people will kind of poo-poo this because they'll say, well, isn't that English language? You have the choice of the language you use. And it's really quite interesting that the same crap happens to all of us, but you can regret it. It was a mistake. Or you can turn around and say, well, this is what I'm going to do in the future. Which one of those kind of helps you mentally? So I'm a great believer of removing as much negative language as I can out of me. Regarding that Bergism, which I just love, which is you haven't got a problem until you've got it. I have one of my dearest friends. I'll phone him up and he'll go, hello.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I love him.
Yeah. He is great.
I hope he even hears this because he knows. And you go, hello. I go, what's up? You go, nothing.
You did the other day. You called him the other day when I was in the car when you picked me up from the airport, and he said, I was like, oh God. Oh no, wait, that is just how he sounds.
Yeah. So I said, what's up? Went, nothing. I said, you sure? He said, yeah. I said, oh my goodness. I said, well, make sure I don't phone you when you are feeling down. And then he laughs and he's the biggest heart, most wonderful friend, really, really dear person. And he laughs at that. It's just the way he does it. But something I'd love to help him more. And I'm very happy for him to hear this if he does. And I understand it. For me, he's a natural worrier about things that haven't happened yet. And they may well happen. They may look likely to happen. But I just feel I need all my energy for if and when it does happen. It's a very, the brain is such a strong tool. I've found this out in the last 8 months in the transition of my business career, that you can be in situations mentally that you think, hang on a minute, why am I feeling like this? Now, you don't choose to feel like this. You realize you are feeling like this, but something has taken you there, and it's got to be the brain. There is no point for me worrying about something that hasn't happened yet. Now, again, that sounds so simplistic, and there'll be many people listening to us now that are going, oh, right, yeah, that's all right for you, because that's the way you are. But I'd ask and challenge everybody that, people say, oh, well, I am the way I am. I'm the way I am because of my choice. I'm never going to be too old to change, ever. So if you want to fall into the trap where, again, you've just justified it on your own, that's the way I am, I think you're justifying it. There was an example that came to my mind, and it was about when you had cancer in your arm. We're parents. Your children don't have cancer. You do. The parent goes first, with respect to anyone that's had tragedy, of course. But the point is, it's not right in the circle of life that God forbid anything happens, okay? There were times when I would come home from work and Mum would be sitting there possibly crying. And my immediate, what's wrong? And her reaction to me at the time was, what do you mean, what's wrong? So I said, well, I don't know, what's happened? And she would literally say, well, Jamie's got cancer. So I say, was anything happened today? What's happened? She said, nothing. Now, this would also be at a time when it was under control. You weren't having another test for 6 months. Nothing was happening. So for me, and I'm not knocking Mum or anyone that's hearing this, for me, it was like, well, I'm not going to lose my energy at the moment, walking around like the world's over, because the world's not over. And if, and it did, it got worse. At that moment, my strength came out, because then Mum needed me, you needed me. And that's when I was at full strength, because that was the moment. But what was the point the day before or the day after? Now, again, mum was kind of, if you like, affecting her day by something she couldn't control and wasn't getting any worse. So I kind of came out with, we haven't got the problem till we've got it. Mum said, we've got the problem. I said, we haven't got the problem.
I feel like maybe you stole that with me because I always used to say nothing's a problem until it's a problem.
Well, I don't know any Jamie-isms.
I'm going to claim that Bergism. That's a junior Bergism.
Well, you can have a junior Bergism, and I think what's that, number one?
I got my first one.
Okay, so you've got the first one of
I'll
your
take
next
positive
book.
procrastination, so that'd be number 2.
Okay, is that yours, positive
Actually,
procrastination?
why not me's maybe mine, I'm not sure. Okay. Let's say 2 and 2.5.
Okay, well, you can have them if they're yours.
Yeah, no, that's very good. Very good. I didn't actually know that was part of the reason behind it, so that's quite
well, that
emotional
would be a great
nice
example. So, look, in summary, there are things that go on a daily basis that we could get very worried about, getting affected about. If it's not going to make a difference, when you really push comes to shove, then worry about it when you've got to worry about it. Until then, there's nothing to worry about.